Tired of outdated marketing advice aimed at the industrial and manufacturing space? My name is Salim Malouf. Join me and my co-host Chris Carolyn as we deliver candid insights from growth-minded leaders, helping you drive results and tackle modern challenges. Cut through the noise to get no-nonsense expertise. Welcome to the Manufacturing Marketing Show. Bryan is a seasoned sales and marketing professional with over 20 years of experience in the analytical instrumentation industry. He's currently a senior commercial director where he focuses on business development, strategic planning, and leading high-performing teams. Throughout his career, Bryan has successfully launched products, expanded market share, and grown revenues for companies in the spectroscopy field. He's particularly skilled at developing key account management strategies and fostering lasting relationships with major corporate clients. Bryan has been recognized for his innovative marketing efforts to improve brand visibility and customer engagement. He also leverages data analysis to inform business decisions and stay ahead of market trends. With decades of experience across sales, marketing, and leadership, Bryan has a wealth of insights to share about succeeding in the analytical instrumentation space. Bryan, thank you for being on our show and welcome.
Hey, thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Our pleasure, man. We go back a while, full transparency, and I've always thought your journey interesting, similar to mine, where it started on somewhere very not sales and marketing oriented, and then ended up on that side. You started your career on the service side of things. And it's funny, and I'm going to ask you to take us through that, but it's often like some of the best, customer experience practitioners, some of the best salespeople start on that side, right? And there's a lot to be learned from why that is. But I'd love for you to just, take us through the career path, and we'll chime in as we can to talk about customer experience and any insights you had along the way.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not the normal path that you see for people that have a career in sales or in marketing, and it's often usually you pick a path and you kind of stick in that direction. So you and I are kind of oddities in this whole space. But and you too, Salim, for sure. Yeah,
started as an engineer.
Yeah, so we're not quite unicorns, maybe a Pegasus. I don't know. I like the idea of having wings, but it's kind of a unique perspective because it gives you, it gets you closer to your customers, in my opinion, because you're there trying to help them solve their problems. Their problems being in that you're trying to help them get whatever instrument or whatever problem that they're working on with your equipment, to get it back and doing what they expected it to do with it, the equipment that they purchased, And so my background, I started into this space right out of the Air Force. I came in with a technical background from all the avionics stuff that I learned from the United States government. Thank you, Uncle Sam. And that propelled me into this space and working on analytical X-ray spectroscopy equipment. And it was right into doing technical support. And then it transformed into doing, that detailed phone support, doing break fix stuff that would come back, and we would, have my hands in the equipment and testing it and getting it all going. But the majority of it was doing technical support over the phone. Back then we weren't there wasn't this kind of experience with online stuff. It was still very much phones and emails back and forth and what have you. But and then that pushed me out into the field, out of the NEAP, because we just had so much need to get equipment up. And so they pushed me out in the field. And that experience I loved because they got me a chance to have real connection with my customers and be able to help solve their problems, see the things that they're doing, really enjoy that interaction. And from there, that's what pushed me to go and take my my GI Bill that I got from the Air Force and continue my education. And so I went back to school, got a business degree, and from there pushed me into management within from a service side still. So I started then to manage our field service team that we had. We had about 25 field service guys that I had to support and help them make sure that they could get to where they needed to go, and provide the install support, the training support, break fix, and what have you. Try to cover all those schedules, and that was a lot of fun. I got to be the bad guy all the time and letting customers know that, sorry, your field engineer is going to be a week behind schedule and all that kind of stuff. And that's a fun phone call to have. Um, but then, with the goal while I was going through school was to continue that experience. I wanted to be in front of the customer, but I wanted to do this on the other side. I wanted to get involved with it on the sales side because I felt like that really could be my calling. I think I could do well at this. And so when a position opened up for a sales position within the same organization, I applied for it, and thankfully I got the job and packed up the family, moved from Madison, Wisconsin down to Houston, Texas, where it felt just like Madison, Wisconsin. And in moved up my family. We had two little girls at the time, and we've been here ever since. And it's been bliss and living a true Texan's life. But starting a sales role was a totally different mind shift, right? Instead of calls coming to me, where I'm just, people need to talk to me. I need to help them. I had to go and change it. I had to reach out. I had to go and get all the communication started, and have all of those fun challenges of trying to establish those connections and establish meetings and get the trust of customers and so on. And so that's really been that was a fun journey, and it was tough times in the beginning because I was just learning it as I go. But I think that just by learning to make that human connection, and all from the part of trying to help my customers with their problems. They have a need. They need equipment, and I'm just trying to help them source the best equipment that they can get. So it was just a mind shift and getting those conversations started.
How long did that mind shift take in terms of kind of understanding inbound's not happening anymore? I've got to be the one to start the conversation.
It happened pretty quick when I realized that there was no backlog for any terms of sales, because the person that had the territory before me managed to close as much as he could before he left, and
was nice of him.
Well, yeah, right, and was happy to go, and he took over a different territory, but closer to where he called home as a child. So he was happy to be back that way, and he was great. He was supportive. He gave me a lot of advice and trainings, and we went on a few calls together and that kind of stuff. But when the phone wasn't ringing and I needed to feed my family, I was like, I gotta have a different playbook here. And so that's when I just, worked at getting as many meetings as I possibly could. I tried to go and I'd get to a campus and go meet as many professors as I could, go and meet anybody in profession. I just wanted to go have conversations, and, the nice thing is that I worked for a pretty big company that you would still get the random leads from time to time. But if I relied on just the leads that were coming to me, I probably wouldn't have stayed in this profession. So I had to drum up my own business, and I'm glad I did, because then it taught me really to understand what my customers' needs were, instead of waiting for them to just, give me the bid spec kind of thing, So those were great meetings to have, but it took me a while to sharpen that craft, and I think we're always working on that, and I don't think I've ever perfected it just yet. I just enjoy trying to meet my customers where they are and see if I can help align with what we do with what they do, and do it the best we can in terms of meeting them where they're at. But it's still a journey for sure.
And did you realize just as quickly as you jumped into these conversations, because obviously when you're trying to put food on the table, it can be easy to let, let's say, non-customer related things motivate you. You mentioned all you're doing is helping on the other side of the wall, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And were you able to connect those dots right away? It's like, instead of it's a reactive helping, we're proactively trying to help.
Yeah, I think it's a mind shift, right? And so if you set your mind to that, like I have something that I really feel my customers can benefit from, and it's my job to be able to communicate the added value of what we have to try to match their needs, and there's a lot of times where what you have doesn't really exactly match what they're looking for, but I didn't want to try to shoehorn my equipment to try to fit what they're. I mean, it might be on the fringe of what they're looking to do, but in those kind of situations, the best policy was to be open and honest, to go, hey, look, I don't think this is exactly what you need. Let's really talk about the full breadth of the things you're doing, and maybe this is where it can lean into. Otherwise, I think you might be better served in something else. And I do that because, one, it's a trust factor, because if I place them with something that they don't exactly need now, and then they're going to be upset that when they can't really do exactly everything that they wanted it to do. But two, I have that connection now, and I can call them up again and get another meeting, and maybe they have a colleague that needs something that I do have, right? And so again, just building up that network and building up that trust of I'm here to serve their needs.
Bryan, before we started recording, you mentioned like you've been doing this for a while before the advent of online video and calls like that.
Yeah.
And you talked about your mindset doing sales. I wonder if you can tell us if your mindset has shifted recently with the changes in customer behavior with the recent pandemic. A lot of in person relationship building stopped. Everybody went online. Could you tell me more about how you adapted to that shift, and if you have retained any of the changes that you made during the pandemic in your process today?
Yeah, I think this is one of the silver linings that we had from the pandemic, is that everybody got used to this kind of interaction, right? And it's never going to replace that in-person kind of experience. That's always a unique type of meeting that you can have, or the experience that you can have, but it's not that far from it. Like, we can have some genuine conversations. I can show you a lot about the products that we offer to try to show you the value that it has, and still find a way to have some engaging conversations. Show you the full breadth of the product, at least from a software perspective. We try to do as good as we can from these interactions with having some video in space where we'll be, because we have some pretty large equipment that doesn't ship anyway. So we either have to do a video meeting, or you come to our office in Austin. So because they're just this large piece of equipment, so we don't ship equipment to do demos, right? So this kind of experience, it actually forced us to sharpen our pencils to make a better, more immersive kind of experience, so that we can try to portray our equipment the best that we can. And again, that silver lining is that customers started to become more accustomed to it. They're all more used to turning on the cameras, because they all have cameras now, although there's still some meetings. In fact, I've been in 3 this week where they didn't want to turn their cameras on, and that's fine. I always have mine on. I want them to see me. But I encourage to have that kind of interaction, and treat it as if it's you're sitting there talking to them, right? I mean, have that experience where and with my whole sales team and marketing team, it's like, come to work as if you're having a meeting with somebody, as if you were going to their office. Make it as professional as you possibly can. Try to make that personal connection. And again, we're just people talking to people, so let's make it as personal as we can. And I think if you make it genuine like that, they can feel it on the other side.
Yeah, and I like your point about they're having experience too. And when COVID hit, they didn't. Not everybody knew how to do virtual demos, and it was always interesting to me that, of course, from the manufacturing perspective, you have to figure out how you're going to demo this product.
Right.
And you started to see, I was selling handhelds at the time, handheld X-ray and laser, and all of a sudden, the Thermos of the world is like, oh, virtual demos available whenever you want it.
Right.
And I remember, like, customers didn't know what that meant. Like, especially in that space where supposedly you could only sell the thing if you went and put it in their hand.
Right.
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 And all of a sudden, I remember that summer, I had a scrap metal yard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I was teaching her how to like plug the camera in for the first time. It's not that they don't want to, but oftentimes it's they don't know how. And I think I'm glad you brought that up, because it is keeping them in mind about sometimes we need to educate our customers on the experiences, honestly, that they should want, or maybe that they're used to having in their personal life, and they can actually have it in the business side if they want it.
For sure. Well, and good for you that you got creative and say, how can I make this as an immersive experience as I can, so that the customer on the other side is understanding the product and how it truly works, so that, once there's that understanding, then they can start to see the value of it. And you made that connection probably faster than anybody else was doing, that was so used to going and meeting them, in that scrapyard and saying, hey, put this in your hand and start sorting some of your scrap there,
Yeah. It was
good for
an
you
interesting experience for sure. So after, well, there's never really been an after sales. I think just an expansion of what sales means for you. Take us through like the next step, where you went to, you were managing distributors, channels, like representing a manufacturer now.
Well, the next step for me, so I was in field sales for about 9 years. And really enjoying that experience. And I think I got as much out of it as I think I was going to. And so when there was this opportunity to go and work from the job title was product manager, but in reality, what it really shifted itself to be was product marketing manager, right? Because it was really more of supporting this this team of this distribution team, to be able to support them on how to sell this equipment, but also provide enough marketing messaging within the organization so that it was more than just, hey, we rep these guys, and that's what they had been doing for a long time, but it was all on the chromatography side. So I was coming in where I'm coming in with all the spectroscopy product knowledge and trying to help elevate this team to understand spectroscopy and bring in different spectroscopy products to boost their portfolio. And so we had to put all that messaging together. And this was a whole new challenge because I had to do it in a way that it was convincing enough for a customer to not only be piqued about the equipment, but also to be piqued about the equipment to work with us as a distributor and add that value to working with us instead of, just taking this and going directly to the manufacturer, because they, the majority of our relationships with our partners, our manufacturing partners, was that they also had sales teams in our territories, and they were also selling direct. And we had to have that added value so that the customers would also want to interact with not just this equipment, but interact in a way that it came through us. And so we had to add some of that value. And part of that is, one, again, building that trust, getting that trust in on our messaging. So we had to put that on our website. We had to get that out there on all our LinkedIn messaging, in our trade shows that we were doing, and all the different ways, and at the same time train a sales team on what the heck is spectroscopy, and what the heck do these products do, and how do you engage with your customers and tell them about it, you know? So this was a whole lot of challenges coming at me, and I loved it. It was a brand new way to, again, expand my skill set, and I took the challenge head on. I really enjoyed the experience. Um, we had some team members that were quick to adapt, and some teams that were um, refused. But I'm sure Chris can remember some of my stories from way back. But eventually the team got on board, and we made some sales, and we made some headway. We got some great messaging. It was something that I had some good interaction with the marketing manager, the marketing director. She was really good about pushing us to get consistent messaging out, and allowed me the freedoms to have some creativity to start making some videos and putting together webinars, putting together seminars, and so on. I can't. I mean, that was just such a great experience, because it then pushed me on to this was my immersion into the marketing side of things. And what a great experience that was, because then I got to start working on messaging that wasn't product specific. It wasn't product messaging. It was application messaging. It was messaging about, where's the value added to the work that my customers are doing. Not like, if I feel like if I'm meeting them where they're at, that will stick better than just me showing a flyer on this widget versus that widget, you know? And so that was what I felt I brought more to the table than what my marketing manufacturers partners were doing. Not marketing, but the manufacturing partners that we had, that they were doing. So I felt like I could elevate it. That was my niche. That was my way in, to try to elevate it more, to help them make that connection.
Ryan, I find myself pulling myself in different directions. I don't want to stray away from this line about product marketing, but I owe it to myself to ask you. We've been in a couple of situations where marketers face challenges that can only be solved by a product manager, and these organizations usually don't have one.
Right.
You going from a product manager to a product marketer, basically.
Uh-huh.
Do you did you recognize, where that line that you crossed, you went into marketing from product marketing? And do you feel if you didn't have the product management hat, you would have found some challenges doing the product marketing?
Well, the product marketing side of things, or the marketing side of things, I felt like I had enough of the on because I've been in the space for a while, that I had a good grasp on some of the technical side of things. So I could use that to start to leverage some of the messaging that we're doing. I didn't have to rely so much on a product manager to help me with all of that, the technical stuff. But I wasn't afraid to go and source it if I needed the help, right? And I could help navigate where I needed to go to try to get that information from. For me, the challenge was shifting over to a marketing side, was just getting into the mindset of consistency, of building the marketing consistency to get the message out there as early and often as I can, because from the company side, it was very easy for them to pull me back into these other roles that I'm very capable of doing, and for me to set up guards to go, well, look, I've said it within myself, I have to do these things to keep this messaging going, to keep this marketing machine going. So I would have to protect my time in order to make sure those things were getting done. And if I couldn't, what resources could I pull in to try to help get that accomplished? Because it's very easy for me to fall back into that old role, and it was very easy for them to ask me, because I could always give them a response. That's always a challenge too, especially when you work for some smaller companies, which, the company that I worked for then was a smaller company. The company I work for now is a smaller company. And so we're all wearing multiple hats and we're all doing a lot of different things, which has its advantages and some disadvantages. But it's just very easy to go back into your comfort zone. The product selling side and the product management side of things is my comfort zone. The marketing side is still where I'm, feel like I'm drinking from a fire hydrant. I'm trying to take it all in as much as I can and try all these new things and see what new ways that I can try to get my messaging out as best I can, and new ways to engage with customers and meet them where they're at with our messaging. So that is the constant challenge. That, again, I love the challenge. It's just something that is still very much a learning mode for me. So Chris is always good about giving me tips and, have you tried this? Have you looked at that? And have you looked at these things? And that's just, I love that, Chris, because you're always giving it to me for free. So, you know.
Well, I just, it's painful for me to watch when there's so much opportunity.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of those challenges are from just wearing too many hats, right?
Yeah.
As you know, and nothing is ever going to compete with the sales opportunity that shows up on your door right now.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe was in the work 6 months ago, fell off the face of the earth, and now they're ready to buy.
Yep.
Now you've got to just shift all your attention, and it's understandable that gets prioritized over everything else.
Yeah.
Right. Especially in the smaller businesses where it is the only source of revenue, or the only way to transact is through the salesperson. Right. Yeah. And that's the challenge, because, it doesn't scale. Right. And if you're trying to grow, and that's where it's interesting in this buyer's journey, that I think you're going to talk about in your next, transition. Marketing is playing a bigger and bigger role in that, right? Uh-huh. And if it's always the last hat or the last priority, or so easily kind of pushed to the back, it's so easy to fall behind, right? Exactly. And you might be focusing on the sale right now, but that's at the cost of 5 sales, later in the year.
Yes.
So it's a great position, because you have the control and you get to learn everything in a much more efficient way. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you need to ask for help, and that's where I've seen, last 2 orgs, I've come in and been asked to build departments out of nothing.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we have different dynamics in the org. So that's why I'm super interested to hear about the experience as you jump into like a commercial, director role where you're at now.
Right. Because
this term commercial has shown up like in recent years, I think. Yeah. And it's always interesting, like the words that we use, and whether it's this industry or that industry, it's chief revenue officer or chief commercial officer, or, like we try to focus on the money instead of focusing on the customers and the experience. But at the end of the day, we're starting to realize that there is a customer journey. Every touch point in the company matters. How can we collect that under one, management structure, which is a challenge. Uh-huh. But if you can do that, it's much easier to manage the whole thing instead of having to go from department to department. So super interested to hear in how you've approached that, where you're at now.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% correct. I mean, when in some of these organizations that I've worked, where it's much bigger organizations, and you see very strong inter-department silos, right? Where there's a lot of this finger pointing. Well, it's not us, it's them. It's not them. It's you, and we're too small of a company to do that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we have the understanding that, we need to all operate on in the same, we're all in the same boat, and we all need to have the oars going all in the same direction, right? For us to be able to move this thing forward. And our messaging needs to be that set way. So we have everybody working that is touching the customer from a service side, from a marketing side, and from a sales side, where it's all under that one umbrella. So it's like, they're all in a way, in a sales mode, right? And and they're also in the organization building mode. And so when I say that, when the service guy's out in the field and they're having a conversation because they're fixing equipment, they're engaging with that customer to talk to them about what are the things that they're doing, how are they using the equipment, what's the experience like, and that messaging is all coming back and getting fed back to us. And so we're able to have more engaging conversations with that. The idea is that we don't just want customers, we want partners. We want our customers to be our partners. So, I'm always asking our service guys, like, hey, how was that experience? You think they would be good to have as a customer spotlight? Could we have a good conversation with them to try to understand what they're doing? Because I want to get our messaging aligned with what our customers are trying to do. And when I say messaging, I mean our marketing messaging. And the same thing from our sales team. We have a number of our salespeople that are also helping with the marketing messaging. And I don't mean it from like a product perspective, but again, helping with building up that kind of experience, trying to do customer videos, trying to get those types of relationships and messages out where one of my marketing people, she'll do sales calls in the morning, and then we'll do our LinkedIn messaging in the afternoon, and we'll do all of that kind of connection together. And so it feels very symbiotic. We're all working together for the same good, and it's all at the focus of the customer, right? It's helping our customer, trying to get what they need, whether that's on the pre-sale side or on the post-sale side. It's all still trying to meet the customers where they're at and making sure that experience is as good as it can possibly be. We know we could do more, and if we had unlimited resources, it certainly would be more. But we try to do with as good, if not better, than what we could possibly achieve with what we can do. It's funny, we have a small team, but I feel like if someone was to call and have conversations with us and interact with us, and then they come and see how small they are, they'd be surprised, because it feels bigger because of all the work that we're doing for our customers.
So it's good to hear that alignment, is not a problem. Yeah, because that's often one of the biggest problems, no matter the size. So, but that being said, you mentioned places to improve. Like, what kind of challenges, with the small team, or, things that customers have been asking you for, what kind of challenges have you run into in maybe serving that customer experience that you really like?
Yeah. So some things that I'd love to do, love to have more training capabilities, right? And not just for paid customers, but for anybody. I'd love for anybody that wants to attend a training to be able to see and experience what our training is like. And so I'd love to be able to have some more online sessions for anybody to just join in and see what using our technology is like. I mean, we're in a unique space in the whole things. We specialize on micro XRF, right? There's a lot of people that are familiar with XRF, especially from a handheld perspective. There's a lot of people that are familiar with microscopy, but there's just a narrow ribbon here that there's people that are very familiar with what we do. And so I have the constant challenge of trying to just educate and bring awareness to what micro XRF can provide. And boy, what a great way to do that, by just showing how our stuff works, having these training sessions open. So I'd love to have, just monthly engagements of just open training sessions. If we had the bandwidth to do that, what a great experience I think that would be, but doing it in a way like you experienced, Chris, where making sure that the customer feels engaged at the other end, right? What is that customer seeing on that other side of the screen? You know?
Yeah, I think I'm glad you highlight that, because I mean, ever since 2010, I've been acutely aware of the knowledge and skills gap, um, you know, in the material science space and other spaces.
Yeah.
And it's just been interesting for me how not a ton has been done to kind of solve for that, since then. And it's gotten worse in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, what do you think is at the heart of why, manufacturers in this space, at least, are unable to figure out the training and how to get it done in an efficient, way that's also engaging? What are the missing pieces?
I think it's a couple things. Everybody's pressed for time. Everybody has a backlog, right? And it's hard to think about programs like that you can do, that you can do in your spare time. Nobody has spare time. Doesn't even exist. Spare time is the time that you set aside to make time, right? So it has to be thought of as a scheduled time. You have to put it as a priority at some point to be able to make that kind of stuff happen. And everybody's running as razor thin as they can, especially on the service side, because in a lot of organizations, service is a cost center and it's not a profit center. And if they're running their business that way, then it's hard to get something like that off the ground, right? And even though it's gonna pay off in the long run, as you and I know, it's gonna pay off. It's gonna bring in sales, but it's just not the mindset. And so they just don't take that initiative. I think the other side of it too is that there's just seems to be lack of creativity in some point, that they're just not thinking about how can I make this genuine experience of more than just how to use my equipment, right? I think it needs to go further in that, how do I make that equipment better, that interaction with my equipment as good as it possibly can be, right? Some people are using the equipment with an understanding of their basic needs on how to use it, but maybe not to their full breadth of how they could use it. And so what a great experience you could create to try to provide some of that additional training, and you can show them, the customer, like, oh, I never knew that we could do that, kind of a thing with this equipment.
Bryan, you mentioned a couple of challenges for education and in manufacturing, but there's a sticking point that I've encountered a lot of times, and be it in creating trainings or be it just simply putting SMEs in front of the camera. There seems to be a challenge for manufacturing leaders specifically to prioritize that for SMEs
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons. With you being in the management teams, how do you view that, and have you seen it around you, and how do you view that challenge?
No, it's tough. I mean, it's a mindset. It's a shift for these people that are subject matter experts to see the importance of it, right? And so it becomes a push where you need to help them understand this is a critical part of what we're trying to do, and push them to engage with it. We have challenges with that in our own team. I'm pushing our team to help with the messaging that we're doing, and we have a number of people that are eager and happy to do it, but they feel like they don't want to get in the way, right? And so they're like, "Well, I have an idea." I was like, "Hey, let me know your ideas. Let's get into it." So some of them are afraid to talk about it, but some of them are they feel like they're too busy. They don't have the time to do it. We have a backlog of stuff that we're trying to get through, and some of them are just fearful. They're just fearful to even get in front of the customer, which seems so surprising to me. It's like we're doing this for the benefit of the customer. Why are you afraid to talk to the customer? And I mean that more, we have some engineers that are really good at it, and some engineers that just, you could tell they feel like they're in uncharted waters and they're very nervous, And I think it's just because of the inexperience of it. And I think if you can get them to embrace it a few times, the next few times will be a lot easier and and just making it part of the culture. And that's the hard part, is just trying to have that culture shift that they need to be engaged in it. But it's on our side too to show them the value of it. And I think that's if we do our part and show them that this is adding value and bringing them in to the successes of it, right? And so for example, we have a particular case where we had to bring in some subject matter experts into the sale on our engineering side. And, we got them on to the meetings with us, and part of the sales, the pre-sales kind of discussions with them. And it was a critical part of the customer to make a decision towards working with us. And then when we got the order, we made sure that we celebrated it and made them part of that whole experience of it. And we've continued to bring that up, but since then been able to get him to engage a number of other times in these kind of similar situations. And I feel like he's a lot more comfortable with it. So it's a culture shift. And the nice thing is that I have our CEO support on it. So that's the other thing, is having top management support to push them. And lucky for me, he comes from the commercial side, so he sees the need, and it's nice to have that support.
Yeah, and I think that support is definitely key, because it's all about creating the space for these, really brilliant people,
right,
to be able to participate in the process. And then, it's a different kind of recognition when it's related to, sales and customers. And, it's not like hey, you're going to do a talk at the technical, meeting. Right. And
right,
like, that's where it's interesting, right? Because they're used to going there, being in front of people, like, hey, I know these people are just here to hear the knowledge, and I just get to kind of speak at them. So it is a different world. And I think understanding that, but then celebrating the outcomes when they participate, is so important.
absolutely.
So with that, we talked about a number of challenges, and I know you guys are growing over there. So as you look to 2024 and beyond, maybe what kinds of things are you guys looking to do to maybe solve for these?
So we're really starting to invest in our video messaging. Feel like there's certainly a gap in what we have in terms of our current video marketing. It's either outdated or just completely stale, and just has a lot of gaps. And so I want to create more of an immersive video experience, because I think through that, our customers can truly see the value of what micro XRF can do for them. And it's not going to be just like, definitely need to have some product videos, and that's all coming, and that's all fine and good. But what I really want to do is have some very specific applications and we're going to pick and choose some hot ones right now, and really show that experience as best that we can in that immersive video experience. And that's I think the reason why you don't see a lot of that is because it's a bigger time investment. Because it's not just the collection of the video, it's the editing of the video. And sometimes you got to go back and reshoot it because you didn't get it right, or it wasn't, we got one we're working through right now where the microphone didn't work. So we got to go and reshoot it because we have, I don't want to do a voiceover. I'd rather just reshoot it, So All that kind of
That's
stuff.
why I put two mics in every live live shoot.
Well, and we did that in one, but then when we listened to the feed, and it's like, oh, it just sounds like it's in a tin can kind of thing,
Yep.
So I was like, no, let's just go reshoot it. But anyway, so that's something that we certainly, from a marketing side of things, I think can really help us, because again, I think it will help our customers from a quick video see what the capabilities are and what a great way to learn, in that short period of time. If we're expecting our customers to read everything, well, God bless. I mean, we're just inundated with so much stuff these days. There's just so much fluff, and we're all getting enamored with 100 emails that we never intend to read ever. And there's so much stuff coming through your LinkedIn feed that who knows if it actually makes it to the people that you're trying to reach and whatnot. That, if I can capture some attention in a short period of time, that it looks like it matches what they're trying to do, or at least where they're at in that time. I think that's a better approach. So we're going to be spending some investment in that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the other thing is like that's one of the best. I mean, for me, when I'm in sales mode, I love being able to share videos.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one of the best sales tools, as well. And that's where I think some of the best understanding and kind of aha moments you can get is like, yes, I need to spend some time on this video, but once it's done,
Yeah,
I can use it in marketing. I can use it in sales. I can use it in customer service. And that's where, especially in this space, some of the quickest wins are all those app notes that you have
yeah,
are like video scripts almost.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So just, and that's where just some focused effort, like there can go a long way. And it's not always about having to create from scratch.
Right. Oh
And
yeah.
that's the thing.
That's a great idea. I mean, just having that. See, this is the idea guy here. Just having the script right there takes a lot of the heavy lifting off, because now, how easy would it be for you now to take that and just storyboard it and go, okay, and here's the frame, here's that frame, and then just walk through it just by looking through your app note.
I'm not sure how comfortable you are with AI tools, but you just feed that application note to a language model, tell it, hey, make a script.
Well, that's the thing. So yeah, so the inside joke is that Chat GPT is my friend Chad GPT. I call him Chad. So yeah, so me and Chad have become close, and we're having a good time. But we're still just learning how to talk to each other. So, but yeah,
it's good
that's definitely a tool.
It's good that you're even on that learning path. We've heard some concerning stories about how people are choosing either to use AI or choosing not to. And story for another day, but that's definitely kind of the next stage of customer interaction at scale.
Oh, for sure.
And all this is in the name of, we're not trying to replace the human interaction, right? We need to make time for it.
Yeah.
And tools like AI, tools like video allow for, more of that human to human stuff. Because at the end of the day,
it's been for me, to just get some of the heavy lifting done, and like you're saying, just help you get that script pointed out. It's not like the language isn't there, and besides, I still need to go through and make sure that it says what I want it to say.
Yeah.
So you can't take the human element out of it, but if I don't embrace this, I could be replaced very easily by someone who has.
Yep.
So
exactly.
Exactly right. So I'm sure that'll be a fun learning curve continuing in 2024.
Oh yeah. Exciting times we're in, guys.
Yeah. So what's a major takeaway, I think, from your perspective as you look at, the challenges you had? What's one thing that somebody's listening to, whether they're in sales, service, or marketing, that they could key in on in 2024 that, would really help them towards taking the next step of customer experience?
Well, I think that's where if you keep that in focus, it's always keeping that customer experience in focus. And if you try to think about how can I make that the most engaging, and I use this term, and I know it's not the right term because it's about food and drink, but how can I make this the most refreshing experience that I possibly can, right? And we all have our roles that we can play in this. And if we all strive to do a good job in our day, right? We want to do well in what we do. And if I have that mindset that how can I make that customer have the most refreshing experience that they can, then that's gonna show in the work that I do, and it's gonna show on the other end, right? And so I try to preach that with my team, and we have that, on a regular basis on our weekly meetings and so on. But that's the key takeaway for me is just keeping your customer in focus. Do you have their, even if you're just on the phone, do you have their face in mind when you're talking to them? Or are you busy looking at all your to-do lists and all the things and like, how can I get off this call kind of thing and move on and get the next thing done, right? So it sounds silly, but it's just, can I be present in the moment when I'm engaging with my customers to help them where they're at with what they're trying to get from us. So, yeah.
Bryan,
I know it sounds preachy, but it works for us, and it works for me on a daily basis, and I can't stress it enough. If we can create that value for our customers and that experience, I think it really does pay off. Yeah.
in fact, it's not preachy at all. Some of the pioneers in content marketing and in B2B are using similar language like you are. They're talking about creating a memorable experience, which is not far off from what you're describing. So I am 100% sure you're on the right path.
Right on. Good deal.
Bryan, thank you so much for this lovely chat. If anyone listening wants to find you, where can they find you and your company?
So within my company, you can always email me at briand@ixrfsystems.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at Bryan DeVerse on LinkedIn. Happy to have any conversations with anyone. Thanks for the invite, guys. This was a blast.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bryan.